Yay. Okay, we are live. Hello, beautiful beings. Just give me a moment while I let this thing load up. There we go. We're on live. Hallelujah. It's Thursday again. I love self-love talks. And like I've been saying recently, I literally have the best guests on my show ever. And this month is exceptional, I have to say. It's like even my own standards are going up and up. And here we have with us today the incredible Marguerite Rigoglioso, and with also Gloria and Sylvia. And we'll meet Gloria and Sylvia very soon, I'm sure. Marguerite, I have to say, it was an incredible coincidence, I feel, that brought us together. Because my very dear friend, one of my graduates of the I Love You Me practitioner training, quantum healer, psychic, amazing, beautiful woman, she was talking to me about this practice she was doing from around miraculous conception, because her and her partner are trying to conceive. And she was telling me about that. And then I was sharing all these downloads that I'd been having about it in conversations I'd had with my partner. Next thing I know, in my inbox, I get an email from yourself or your assistant saying, would you like to review Marguerite's book about virgin birth? And I was like, oh my God, how did she know? Yes.
Oh, I had no idea, honestly. Of course. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Thank you for having me here.
So I was like, oh my goodness, this woman. And I'd learned about you from my beautiful friend, Mary Catherine. My viewers know Mary Catherine. And she was on Day of the Divine Feminine as well. So of course I reached out to you. We missed each other with the book review thing. Emails crossed over, things got lost. I don't know what happened. But then I saw you on a Sasha Stone interview, and I was like, I got to have this woman on Day of the Divine Feminine. And of course you said yes, and I was so happy. And, I celebrated you were going to join us. And it was absolutely fantastic to have you. And as I keep saying, guys, if you haven't yet watched Day of the Divine Feminine, it's an epic 9-hour marathon with 30 speakers on Divine Feminine and fertility and hijack of the feminine. It's exceptional. Go watch it. But Marguerite, I'm really super happy and excited to welcome you on Self-Love Talks. And I can't wait to dive in.
Yes, thank you. It's really wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Tara.
Total pleasure. So, I'm going to, for our viewers, okay, I know we're going to be talking about Divine Feminine, about love, self-love, true love, your new, adventures you've been having, but also your incredible work around virgin birth. And I just want to read a little bit, if it's okay with you,
Sure.
of your bio so everybody knows who you are. So you're the founding director of Seven Sisters Mystery School, which is really cool, and a scholar / practitioner of the ancient Mediterranean mystery traditions. You're the world's foremost authority on virgin birth. And you're the author of the mystery tradition of miraculous conception, Mary and the lineage of virgin births, as well as the cult of divine birth in ancient Greece. And the Virgin Mother Goddess of antiquity. These groundbreaking books reveal an entire suppressed history of holy women who engaged in the practice of divine conception throughout the ancient Mediterranean world and cast Mother Mary in a completely new light. And then you've got a list of other things. I get goose pimples reading that out. You've got a list of other things, universities you've taught in, all kinds of incredible things. So yeah, thank you, sister, for your work, for your study, and for everything that you do in the world.
Oh, yes, you're welcome. I mean, it's been my joy, but it's also been my work. There's been a lot of dedication and a lot of really commitment, and I would say even sacrifice in some ways to be able to bring forth this information. So now I'm at this point in my life where I'm really balancing that more, and self-love is definitely coming in a very big way.
Where do you want to start? Do you want to start on self-love? Because I was going to go back to ancient Greece and ask you about Mother Mary, virgin birth.
Well, let's start with self-love, and then let's work our way back, because it's kind of what's live right now for me, and it's so much of what you're doing. And then, yeah, I think we can move into how it relates actually to divine conception of any sort, and Mother Mary, who's she's the model for the heart and the womb put together, and the third eye. She's like all of those things are linked in a figure 8 with her. So we can talk more about that.
Absolutely. And talking about conscious conception and self-love is one of my favorite things too. So tell us, because you just had an epic adventure.
Yeah.
And now you're calling in your true love.
Yes.
And you've been on an adventure of learning about self-love.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, it is time for me now in my life, after a number of years of just doing a lot of lying fallow kind of in a way in the relationship department, just to get to know myself and just to really become much more comfortable with my sovereignty, my solitude, and all of that. And now, and I also moved from the West Coast of the US and California to the East Coast. Now I'm situated here. And so I know where I am going to be for a while. And I feel like I'm knowing myself more and more. And so now it's time for that soulmate partner to come in. And so I'm opening the space and opening the doors and doing the things that I need to do in order to invite that person in. You know, hint, hint, we know that people love to play Cupid. So anybody who's listening, if you have a good idea of a conscious man, yeah, you know, you can find me. But yes, one of the things that I did for self-love was I went on this epic road trip from Massachusetts on the eastern coast of the US all the way across to California through the northern route, and then back through more of the southern route. I did 8,026 miles in 5 weeks from June 30th, really, all the way to August 6th. And it was just the best gift I had ever given myself. I already knew that I loved road trips because when I left California, I had lived there for 20 years in the San Francisco Bay Area. And in 2019, I went on an epic road trip with destination not exactly known in March 2019. And then I came all the way over to the East Coast, and I ended up, you know, settling here. I have natal family here and so forth. So I knew that I loved the open road. I knew that I loved that feeling of driving and seeing the new and having those, you know, your wheels on the ground, and you're seeing every inch of your trip and what's going on out there, you know, in the world, and the tremendous beauty that is in Turtle Island. Oh my gosh. So I knew I was going to love it. And it also couldn't have come at a better time because, you know, this was now like year plus into the whole COVID business, where so many of us have been dealing with lockdown or shutdowns, and I was like, I got to get out now. And also I knew it was the right timing to finally complete the last of my storage unit that was in California. What, you know, I liken the story of somebody who's given away almost all of her belongings, gone on the road, and then, you know, I just sort of retrieved or gave away the rest of those. Being on the road, Tara, was so opening, especially during the summer season. The vistas, the wide expanses, the big sky of middle and Western America, the buttes, the cliffs, you know, the valleys, the mountains, the trees. This was just food for my soul. And you know, I was weeping half the time with joy, you know, and I would put on this epic song called Murmuration by a group called Nomad Soul Collective. You can find it on YouTube. And if you want to know what was the soundtrack to my trip and you want to get a feeling of it, listen to that song. I don't even know if this group is still around or whatever, but it's just, I would come around bends and just this amazing thing would open. So this was self-love, and I was just breathing in the green, breathing in, you know, connecting with the elemental beings, the fae and the fairies, wherever I went. So it was a big gift to myself.
Did you have
to arrange things to take all that time off? You know, that was an act of self-love right there. And then what happened on the trip were revelations about self-love as well. I can go into that. Or
that's exactly, I'm like, so what did you get? What downloads did you get? What realizations did you get?
Yeah.
Driving, I start channeling all kinds of stuff. So what happened?
Yeah, it was really amazing. And I realized, well, I'm also at a place in my life where my school is flowing, Seven Sisters Mystery School. I worked really, really, really hard since 2012 to really have that moving and flowing. A lot of, difficult days and tears and, oh my God, right? And overwork.
Mm.
So this trip, I barely was looking at emails. So that was an act of self-love. And I had worked things out enough beforehand, of course, going crazy up until the time of leaving. And I had enough support. That was another act of self-love that I changed up, being able to have enough support. And then while I was on the road, I was at times with friends, and one friend in particular, and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm running into this trip almost like a crazy woman. I've been working like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. just to get everything ready and get on the road. This has got to change. And I was talking together with my friend and realizing, the vibration that you have in your house is the vibration that people pick up on you, including potential partners. So that can be a draw or an impediment to a partner coming in. And I kind of realized with startling clarity that I was at a vibration that was at an impediment. Not only, just being in the house and what I was generating and feeling a lot of anxiety and being at email constantly, like first thing in the morning, I'd go start with the email, last thing at night. And being on the road was a gift because I couldn't. I had to be moving from one place to another every day or every 2 days. I had stops with people or with friends, and I got unaddicted to my business and to my email and realized nothing's going to fall apart. Things are actually happening. I can switch around my life now. And so and I need to, because I need to be able to have more fun, more events, outdoors and with people for as long as we can before, the clampdown happens again. But Marguerite's creative. She's going to come up with creative ideas. And, so I realized, okay, I have to work certain hours of a day and that's it. And then not be looking at email and just resisting, giving myself the permission, the break. Like this was all massive self-love for me, because I was equating self-love with making sure my business is working and running, because otherwise I'll be poor and starve and die. You know what I mean? Like it was like this kind of fearful place that I was in, the survival trauma-based place. And so when I realized, okay, I didn't have to do that. And actually my friend was helping me, and she got me into this whole thing of what if, and I don't know what teacher was teaching this, but it's this whole thing. When you start thinking these negative thoughts, you just say, oh, what if it's really easy to draw my soulmate into my life? What if, like you do the opposite of what your mind is kind of churning and telling yourself the usual. And so I started doing that, and I had all of these things happen on the trip that were amazing, what ifs. And afterwards, like, for example, I had to take the big cargo box off my car when I got back, in order to bring my car for detailing. And I thought, of course, I'm up at 3 a.m. worrying about this, because I'm like, who's going to help me? I don't have anyone to help me. And it's like, I stopped and I said, what if somebody comes like right at between 6 and 7 a.m. when I have to do this, to make it really easy? Well, what happens? I'm going out, emptying the cargo box. The neighbor next door has these people digging a new septic system. The guys are there precisely from 6 to 7. And I got help, right when I needed it. So that's what happens when you start doing the what if, instead of, I don't have anyone to help me, this is the story of my life, blah, blah, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
You really take a risk, and the what ifs and the opening to possibility are a big form of self-love for me.
Absolutely. So, and I'm finding it curious, because we had Day of the Divine Feminine, obviously on the solstice, the 21st. You set off a week later or a little bit later on the 30th. And divine feminine for me, and I completely understand what you mean about being overwrought with the business. I've been running an academy for years as well, and it gets exhausting. You're running events, you're keeping up, you're keeping everybody happy, trying to keep everybody happy and grow the business and everything, and I was raising kids and everything. And it's like, and here I am as a self-love teacher. And self-love, there's levels, right? There's levels of this, and they go super, 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 super deep, because love basically is everything, right? So it's everywhere. Here I am as a self-love teacher, and I'm like, but I'm stressed out. And how can I stop doing everything? Because I know I need to stop in order to drop into my divine feminine essence and my true nature to receive and attract in and manifest on that quantum level through absolute unconditional receivership.
That's right.
As is the nature of divine feminine, right? When we truly embody who we are as women, as the feminine. And yet, how do I stop running all this stuff? And I remember going through this, and it was around Christmas last year, 2019, coming into 2020. And it was like sitting in the void for about 3 weeks in this absolutely what felt really terrifying, unknown, dark space, no floors, no ceiling, no walls, just, I don't know what's going to happen. Processing, working through my fears, self-loving on all my fears, meeting my fears, loving myself, transmuting, getting to the point of suddenly finding a new ground, a new bottom. But I had to give myself that space. I had to unplug, let go through the fear barrier, and you go through it. It's like an initiation. And it is an initiation, right, Marguerite? And you know a lot. I know you know a lot about ancient mysteries and initiations and rites of passage from third dimension through into fifth dimension and beyond, like navigating that fourth dimensional realm of what the mind can create, present as a reality, and what we generate from in here. So I was like, had to navigate that space, and coming through the other side in total and utter surrender, trust, bliss. Actually, on the other side of the fear was this elation, this lightness. And then after that, it's like, you know, the universe loves a vacuum, and it loves to pour everything into the vacuum. So there was this open, empty space, and then everything started to come in, including the love of my life reconnecting with me after not having been together for like 3 years. We ended up getting back together.
Wow.
And now I'm living the life of my absolute dreams, really not doing that much work at all. And everything is manifesting like this.
Yeah.
But it takes that massive faith, that big step that you just done of total let go, going, I know I need to change. I know I need to stop. But that's the scary part. And I love that you made it an adventure as well.
Yeah.
And friends and everything there to have that time with.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that the trip was going to be an initiation into self-love. I just thought it was going to be kind of a fun road trip, you know, with practical things and some stops along the way with lovely people that I've met in my life. But I didn't realize this depth of it, that yes, it was going to be that letting go of the worry and all of that, and allowing, trusting. And one thing, you know, I had some modeling also by this friend who would meditate first thing every morning. Now, like you being a self-love teacher, I'm in part a meditation teacher, right? And it's just like, oh my God, I had lapsed. I had gotten away from it. You know, there was a period in my life where first thing in the morning I was doing it. And she just helped me to get back into it first thing, like before the pajamas even come off. And so I've been doing that. And even though I'm not doing like the whole hour that I'm supposed to do, I'm doing, you know, a half hour, and it's changing my life because it clears and cleanses all the physical and emotional and psychic and dream level debris that you wake up with. And then it gets me to the calm, clear, centered space. And then it gets me to the oracle space where, oh yeah, I can talk to Mother Mary because, you know, I am in communication with her and other guides. And I can set the energy and the template for my entire day. So this has been another great act of self-love, because no, I don't even turn on my phone. I just go through this, and then I go through whatever my my yoga or my walking, and then I start potentially looking at the emails, and but I even am putting like taking care of my personal hygiene before that, and not being in a place where, oh God, I got sucked in and I never even took a shower and I never even got dressed.
I used to
So
do
this
that.
is a big,
Do you wake up and you're like
for
on
me.
your laptop in bed in your pajamas? I used to do that loads.
Yeah, right. I mean,
I haven't got dressed.
yeah. So I'm just, I'm just feeling like this whole road trip reset me, or I allowed myself to reset, and I had the support of friends who helped me to do that, and guides, and maybe land spirits as well, who were saying, yeah, just enjoy the beauty that's around you, because sooner or later you might not be here. And so at least you said you drove across and saw, whatever it is that you saw in New Mexico and so forth.
Yeah, and you were having
that energy.
And that's the thing, you talked about vibration and the vibration of your home and your house. And the vibration of our home and our house is an extension of us, isn't it? It's an outward reflection of what's going on in here.
That's right.
Wherever our vibration is, we're going to magnify that around us. And so to actually have a reset and go, hold on a minute, where's my vibration at? What am I calling in? What am I attracting? Where's my attention and energy been escaping out all day long, running amok, doing its thing? And don't you find that you get less done like that? Like,
oh, because you're exhausting, and then you're kind of like, I don't know, you're just, yes, it's like you're not efficient anymore. Your time is just absorbed, and it's taking longer to do things, and you're not thinking as clearly. And I go up and down. Like yesterday, we launched my Oracle training, so I ended up working from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. trying to get everything set for the website. And finally, a friend's phone call stopped me. I probably would have been going till 8. And then, I was getting like a little depressed, and I realized, oh, I know what this is. I have not taken care of myself today.
mm-hmm.
I don't know why I thought everything had to be finished today. It didn't really. But it's that addictive work, thing. And so therefore I didn't really do any of the self-care that I needed. And that's why a little bit of the depression started coming in. But I was able to get myself back out of it by tuning back into the meditation that at least I had done at the beginning of the day, where I connected with Mother Mary and these other goddesses that I work with, like Kuan Yin, and also Matsu, who's this Taiwanese goddess who I met in San Francisco. She has a temple there, and I began receiving and channeling her. And basically, I was able to turn the energy around. They were just like, your heart. Yeah, just get back to your heart. And I was like, and I could remember all the times that in my meditations I had achieved the heart space, working with Mama Cacao, which is a big facilitator for me to get into that beautiful heart space. This is another thing. She's just a tremendous superfood on the planet. And so I can recall the feeling, and then I can generate it. And by the time I went to bed, I was like, wow, every moment is a gift on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
How may I live like that every day, just getting back to that. And it's the love space, because they were like, it's all about love. It's all about love. Mm-hmm. So, this is really up. I mean, everything you're doing is so timely, obviously. And with all of the stresses that are happening now in the world, we are being forced in a way to either get to the place of self-love, or you're going to be really miserable, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no more, this is a frill, I'll do it when the day of work is done. It has to be the first, foremost, and foundation of what we're doing, the basis and the start of the day, as well as the middle of the day and the end of the day, and every minute in the day, right? The love energy.
Exactly. It has to be, it's a paradigm shift from out there, everything else is more important. Got to do it, running on the fear base, the lack base. What if I can't do it? What's going to happen if I don't? That fear, that lack, running to go in complete 180 paradigm shift into, I need to love myself first. What does that look like? Who do we have as mentors in the whole of history that we know of, who actually embodied self-love, or embodying love, right? When you love yourself, you're embodying love. You are coming back to the absolute divine and human blueprint that Creator Source created you with. You're undoing the conditioning, you're undoing all of the programming, you're undoing years and years and years, generations and generations of ancestral programming and conditioning, and you come back to your divine source soul self.
That's right.
And you unconditional love for self puts you there. And then it's like, as I serve and love myself, so I then serve and love others from a full cup. And it has to be that way for us to evolve.
I know. And there's no pussyfooting around now about it. Like, as this whole global crisis, everybody is going through the sieve. And whatever is not love or healthy is not going to go through. But we have to do that job of putting ourselves through that sieve. And we have to walk our talk now so much as spiritual teachers, if we consider ourselves that. I just think of myself as like somebody with a few good ideas who has some things to say. If people want to listen, great, but I'm teaching myself, I need my own mentors. That's why I am working with, Mother Mary and others, Magdalene and Jesus. I mean, I think they embodied that divine human blueprint. They were what they called in those days the anthropos in Greek, right? Which meant the full human being. And we're coming into that now, like the full activation of all the chakras and the aspects of ourself. And then what do we need to heal in those chakras that got traumatized, that got wounded, that got taken away, or, has things connected to it that don't belong there, all of that. It's such a major, major time right now. And actually, this is the only way we're going to get through this, period. Basically, like, it's going to ratchet up most likely. Every day on the news or whatever you're hearing, this is going on, that's going on, now another layer. And you're like, oh my God, the anxiety level can ratchet up so much. And you just have to be like, right in this moment, I'm breathing. In this moment, I'm connecting with my heart. Right in this moment, I'm connecting with my wisdom, which allows me to take out my heart in a more effective way to deal with this that's going on, or help others deal with it.
I wanted to ask you about that, Marguerite, because in my understanding, and I mean, you are a seriously researched, incredible woman. You've studied so much, you know so much in terms of history and events and detail. Whereas I don't really know any of that. I've just learned things from soul reading. So if it's okay, I'm just going to share what I've learned. And then I'd like you to really kind of jump in and give me the full picture of that. Because from what
the best library in the world is the Akashic library. You know what I mean? Like, period, hands down. It even trumps the unfortunately burned down Library of Alexandria. It's all there. So I being a noodly little researcher or whatever, you've got to have that connection to the Akashic records. And I fully honor people who do, like yourself. So, and I tune into it as much as I can as well. So I feel like the history is only just a validation of what we already know from the Akasha. That's basically what I find out about it. Or it'll stimulate some ideas to get you back to the Akasha and get the information. That's how all my research has been done, in a figure 8 form.
Exactly. I like the both. And that's why I've been wanting to talk to you about this, because I'm like, okay, this is juicy. We can look at it from all sides.
Yeah.
Because from my understanding and my meetings and connections that I've had with Mother Mary, And we were talking about this just before we came on air, that what I learned about even the name Mary was a title, which is the title of a priestess. It's the title given to a priestess. So Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, it's not like their name was Mary, like mine's Tara. It was like, it was a title.
Yeah.
That also that something, this thing around virgin birth, to me, and this is where, because I think it's got multiple meanings, right? Virgin, how that got translated
Right.
in the early scriptures, in the early Bibles, to what we think it means now. I'm like, really? I think it's got multiple layers of meaning, because my feeling around Mother Mary is that she birthed in a pure state, absolutely connected to the angelic, to God, to her earth, to her body, as the bridge between heaven and earth, because that's what it is to be a mother. You become a portal between the place where spirits reside and the place where human bodies reside. And you are merging, you are not just birthing the body of a child, you're birthing the spirit and the soul of that child and everything that they come with, all the layers, all the dimensions of that being, not just the little physical body. And so to give birth can be this incredible initiation of, I mean, it's kind of, I found it incredibly enlightening. It's like absolutely one with God in this total presence, absolute trust and surrender in my body. My body is soft, I'm in bliss. And I had this connection with Mother Mary that in virgin, it meant not that she didn't necessarily have sex to make her baby, but they conceived very consciously, fully consciously, not just from their minds and from their egos and running all these subconscious programs, but actually having really brought the consciousness all the way down through all of their chakra centers, pure, clear, like a drop of distilled water.
Yeah, the nectar.
Rather than all muddied up with subconscious thoughts and programs, and, you know, that they were clean, clear vessels for consummating and creating the divine child. And the divine child, which got named Jesus Christ, and everybody knows him as Jesus Christ. But I was like, but the divine child is born through every single parent, but it comes with the mishmash of the human condition and then the divine conception.
Yeah.
And if only we could clean off the human conditioning, we would see the divine conception between heaven and earth in that little body, and that every child is a divine child. Yeah. And can we as mothers, or can we as women, be that empty vessel, be that chalice, be that beautiful holy grail, unconditionally receiving, unconditionally surrendering, pure, in pure love, and birth in a state of pure love? To me, that's what virgin birth meant. And I'm like, that's seriously missing from our day and age now. I mean, Rob, I would say, and I even think there's a deliberate hijack around that.
Deliberate hijack is the word. Yeah, for sure. What you're saying is beautiful to me. And I think there are, you know, many nuances we can get into. Yeah. I mean, first of all, starting with the name of Mary, yes, I had received that it was a title. And the way I was able to do my trail of the research was through a book called Christ in Egypt by D.M. Murdoch. And she points out there, she has a few references that show that the name Mary, of course, is the anglicized version that goes all the way back to Maryam in the Hebrew and the Arabic and so forth. But that is linguistically comes from the word Mary, essentially from Egypt, the Egyptian word Mary, which was a title that was connected with Isis. So it would be, sometimes she would be called Mary Isis, or then that Mary would be given as a title to a king, like Mary, you know, Joe Smith, the Egyptian king, whatever. And so what it means in Egyptian is it means divine love. It means beloved, lover, the loved one, love itself. And all of its cognates are all related to divine love, which was that huge principle that the ancient Egyptians knew about the way we're talking about it today. And so this name, Mary, was a title associated with Isis. and then it was just used. It probably was the basis of the name Miriam. But essentially, yes, initially it was a priestess title, like venerable, like Dahani Yawahu, we call her venerable, right? Because it's an honorific. So Mary was an honorific that meant loving, the loved one, the beloved, the lover. But then eventually it came to be used, Mariam, as a name that went to so many women. As you know, all of our names go back to goddess names, right? And so this is so it was a priestess title, which is why all of these women of the New Testament and beyond, you know, Miriam, the sister of Moses and Aaron, you know, had this title, and she was clearly a priestess, right? So yes, it is a priestess title. But that added element that it means love, I think is so cool, especially for your work, right? So the love is a very important component of the conception, right? As well as the vision, the understanding of what you're doing, the consciousness, and humanity has been made to become so unconscious by design, I think, by, you know, these many forces that don't want us to access our divine human blueprint because it doesn't serve them for what they want going on. But we're getting back to that all now. And so the idea of Mother Mary and how she conceived, first of all, there's some evidence coming from a teacher who's now crossed over to the other side. He took his samadhi in 2012 as a young 36-year-old named Sri Kaleshwar. He's the one who gathered all of these teachings, mantras, yantras, and histories about the holy womb chakra understandings from the ancient palm leaf manuscripts, these palm leaves that were written on in teeny tiny by these amazing masters who actually lived and walked on the planet. He says some were written by Jesus. I'm not sure if any were written by Mother Mary, but he says that Mother Mary was actually using these mantras and practices as part of their elevation and their purification and their empowerment, you know, to become who they were. And also that Mother Mary had, he said, millions of lifetimes to get to this point. She did it so that we don't have to have millions of lifetimes, just like Jesus gave that sacrificial karmic death of himself so that we could clear a whole bunch of karma without having to go through as much clearing as we would have without that, you know.
How does that work, Marguerite? Just sorry to stop you, but how does that work, that two beings can do that much clearing on behalf of the collective so we don't have to? What does that mean?
Well, because they have had millions of, well, Jesus, it was his first lifetime, but Mary, it was not hers. And Rudolf Steiner says that her previous incarnation was as Isis. And I think that is fascinating. That was like truth, you know, when I heard that, because, oh, she was learning. And in that lifetime, she learned the technology of conception with a posthumously with her partner who had already passed over, Osiris, using a dildo. Now, in this lifetime that we know her as Mary, she had gone past that. She didn't even need to do that. She had all of the male, female within her. And she had purified herself and elevated herself enough that she was a very high being. Also because, guess what? She had been divinely born by her mother, Anne. They were in a lineage, you see. So she was already a goddess walking the planet, because when you give a divine birth without a male karmic line and energy and all that, you give birth to an avatar, okay? And the quality of the avatar depends on the quality of you, the angelics that you're attached with, and all of that. So you can bring forth a negative being, or you can bring forth a positive being. And Anne, because she was in this lineage, really going back to Sarah, the mother of Isaac, the miraculous mother of Isaac, was able to do this. And I think this was a whole plan that they had going on, because Anne's sister was Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist. This is what we find out in the Islamic tradition. We have to go all the way to the Quran or these commentaries on the Quran to find this out, that this was a family affair. Okay. So they were giving divine birth because they knew they needed to give birth to these avatars. So they were working the conception at a very, very high level. Now, Sri Kaleshwar says that any couple can also conceive a divine child. And the way to do it is through these mantra practices. There's a 2-step mantra practice in order to be able to do this. And then it's amplified by doing these various mantras before, during, and after the birth. So that's one way, one technology by which people can rise to the level that you're talking about. Another way is simply to, pull it forth from the Akashic records and follow your intuition, right? I mean, things that you were doing. But these are teachings that are coming back on the planet now after even being hidden, really, I would say. These palm leaf manuscripts were hidden. And so Mother Mary's type of technology was without a human male and without even a divine male. She was all of that in and of herself. That was virgin. That was sovereign. That was the total divine anthropos in human form, is the virgin. Okay. So she could do that, right? Hey, a shark just gave birth parthenogenetically. Did you see the article? All right, go take a look. It was in captivity. It was able to do it. They're going to call it the Mother Mary shark now. Okay. But, so like she knew this really high technology. Now there's another, so regular old couples can do this, but not regular old, because you kind of have to like do your work, to be able to do this. Not everybody's going to get to the place where they can really be advanced enough to even think about working with these mantras, use them properly, and then raise the child properly. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it can be done. You don't have to have 7 million lifetimes as a virgin, to be able to do what you're saying. And I think there was also, Mother Mary had perfected the virginal sovereign yin yang technology of divine birth. She was able to bring in a really high being. It was his first incarnation into, material form. He was a new soul. That was amazing. And he was already so advanced, right? According to Kaleshwar and everything that I've been learning and intuiting. And then there's this other technology, which is also akin to what you're saying, which is the divine tantra. Okay. So there's the divine virgin birth, and there's the divine tantric or hieroskamo sacred marriage birth. And both of those are very high level technologies. And both of those can be degenerated as well, which is what we have with the divine conception birth. I mean, the tantric birth, that degenerated into the royal lines, what happened with the royal lines, and it got taken over, and the power of the woman was diminished, and she just became used as like a cash cow, for these beings to come onto the planet and so forth. And I really kind of question what was going on in ancient Egypt, because they were having a kind of a sacred marriage encounter, the pharaoh and the queen, but I think it was already degenerated by that time. Okay. And then the farther degenerations are the temple prostitution, which originally was meant to have, a coupling, but it devolved into this thing where it's like, oh, we're going to give a tithe to the temple by having sex with this priestess, and then it became regular prostitution, right? So there's been swings and backs and forths with these types of technologies, but I think what's happening is we're starting to, the cover that's been put on it is dissolving. You're picking up on it. Many different people are picking up on it. I'm picking up on it. Claire Hartsong, who channeled her books, Anna, Grandmother of Jesus, and Anna, Voice of the Magdalens, has picked up on it. It's coming around. And when I say I'm the foremost authority on divine birth, from the academic perspective, there may be other women who are in underground lineages, unbroken, for all I know. And they're the real ones who are experts on divine birth. And I bow to them. And I pray that there will be enough safety for them to bring their teachings to the planet in the light at one point,
right time, divine timing.
And divine timing. So that's kind of like the little encapsulation to also riff off of what you were saying.
So other questions that then come out of that are, I've always wanted to ask this question. I'm curious. I'm listening a lot recently about sacrifice. And you mentioned yourself, Jesus sacrificed himself. And I'm curious, sacrifice can be like a beautiful thing where you relinquish, you let go to birth something else, like the sacrificing of an old shell or a skin or something. But sacrifice really means to let go of something which is cherished, which is dear and beloved to us, and we kind of don't want to let it go, but we feel we have to for a greater cause. Yeah. And it can also be very punishing. It can be, you know, in my mind, very kind of old paradigm that we have to sacrifice ourselves to be happy, and we have to sacrifice our blood, and we have to sacrifice our children, and we have to sacrifice our happiness, and we have to sacrifice our bodies, and we have just about everything of ourselves that is precious and holy in order to attain something else that we think is important, or have been told or programmed is important, you know, through one form of indoctrination or another. So you know, sacrifice, okay, maybe it was an important part of the past. Is it necessary now?
Right. It's so interesting because I brought this question up with Claire Hartsong, who was channeling her Anna books right around the time that I was doing this research on divine birth that became my dissertation, and then my first two books, and now my Mary book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. That's the most recent one. When she and I had a conversation by phone, you know, back in 2008, after I had done this research, maybe it was 2009, and she said that the good news is that we do not have to have the violence and the bloodshed in order for the cycle of the divine birth mystery to be completed anymore. So in the past, what had happened was the cycle had to be completed by the divinely born one dying in some kind of way, being sacrificed. This even goes back to the sacrifices of the kings, the deaths of the kings, and, you know, and she's saying, no, we don't have to do that anymore. And I'm like, wow, okay. I think that's something that we're working out of this thing. We're kind of like winding it out, because it came in. What I intuit is that the Holy Family really had great hopes for what was going to happen in the middle of the Roman Empire, no less, you know, which was like the height of the kind of these certain beings activities on the planet. And they all came in and they're like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this as a group. We're going to come in at this time. First she's going to go, then she's going to go, then she's going to go, then this, then that, then him, then her, then John the Baptist, and they were hoping that it would not go badly, but it did. They did not count on what was going to happen, that the veils were so thin that there was going to be, it would become so threatening that they would be in complete danger. And then there would be that final betrayal of Judas, who turned him in or let his whereabouts be known or whatever it is. So then they had to make lemons out of lemonade, as we like to say. Okay, you know, they're like, all right, this is going down. What do we do? Okay, well, at this crucifixion event, Mary and Jesus are going to do Atma Kandana yoga. You know, all these different types of yogas to take the soul out of the body except for a piece, to then bring the soul back into the body, you know, all these things. Like when Jesus did it with Lazarus, he was just demonstrating. But Mother Mary knew how to do it, and she actually brought Jesus back through her womb, resurrected him according to Kaleshwar, body and soul, and he was in India for the last part of his life, where there are records that he was there, you know. So that's according to one timeline. So they had to work with the sacrificial energies, much to their dismay, because even Jesus was there kneeling on the ground saying, please take this cup away from me. Oh my God, you know, we did not, this was not the plan. Clearly it was not Mother Mary's plan to be at the foot of the cross, watching her beloved avatar son die a horrific, shameful death, you know, or the Magdalene, and so forth and so on. So they just had to make it work. But I think that by you and I and Claire Hartsong and others articulating that the sacrificial, violent sacrifice does not have to be the ending completion of the divine birth cycle. We are moving into a new phase. I decree it so, and so it is.
Amen. Aho to that one. Because in my world, in self-love and in the world of love, nothing is a sacrifice. There is no sacrifice required.
No. And we're all releasing those old lives of, like at the very beginning, what did I do? I started out saying I've sacrificed a lot, to get here, this, that, I could give you the list. But, I'm trying to like reverse out of that, because those are old memories of past lives when we were nuns and we were, God almighty, talk about sacrifice, eek.
Again and again, wasn't it?
So we're releasing that and coming into present time. And what does it mean to be the anthropos, the virgin, and move forward? This is part of the initiation at this time into the fifth dimension, as the world seems to be going to heck in a handbasket with earth changes and, diseases and, the whole biblical thing is going on right now. Hello, you wanted to be in the living movie of it. Now you're in it. Isn't it fun? And it's not fun. It's like, we're like, oh my God, we're having to meditate every day to like, just stay calm and breathe and not get taken over by these media images and so forth, which half the time are not even real. Like, it's all illusion anyway,
Yeah.
So, we're coming though back. This is the initiate. We had to let go. We had to go into that void, that scary part, like you did, like I did, to let go of all the addictions and the worries and all that 3D stuff, to really go through the initiation now. And that's what we're doing.
And I like the
metaphor. It is the initiation into love, so that we can have what we want and release the sacrificial programs, which of course those beings have it coming and going. Like if they can't just completely traumatize you, then they'll try to enter into this beautiful divine birth thing and make it a sacrifice, so they're always acting. But the light is always acting too. And you could just go, it's like Aikido. You have to learn how to just deflect it. And it's through that love that you're talking about, that relaxation, and that what if things could be really joyful energy.
Yeah, what if things are actually miraculous right now energy as well?
That's right.
You've got the eyes to see it. It's right there in front of you.
That's right.
Right. If we're coming out of that paradigm or that belief set or that hamster wheel of sacrifice and coming into present moment, not yesterday, not what I got to do tomorrow. I mean, that you can't make plans at the moment. Just go ahead and try, everyone. Go ahead and try and make a plan. It's, good luck. It's not going to happen, right? Chances are.
That's right. The future isn't even written. I mean, we don't even know. Oh my God, we're being forced more and more to be right now and emanate from that point, that 0 point.
Exactly. And in that 0 point, there is everything. Absolutely everything in this moment now. And it's effortless. It's just like you make a movement like that, and then all these things happen.
And that's how you become the virgin birther.
Right.
You are the virgin birther, because the void is within you in this present moment. The 0 point is you. And so we're all giving virgin birth to ourselves, to the world, and so forth. When we really get down to meditation and get to that point, like if we could each every day get back to that place of knowing, wow, everything would change, So I'm telling myself, okay,
instant.
And I get back to that place of knowing every day, like how quickly can I get myself into it? Right.
And actually it's like, it's a choice, because that's what you've been saying this whole time. It's like, hold on a minute, new choice and new priority. That's what I'm hearing every time you're talking about this. I'm like, you just made a new priority. You just flipped your priorities from the old way of doing things to go, okay, hold on, get present, get in the moment. Where am I now? Connect to self, connect to source, boom. And in that moment, there is everything.
That's right.
I love what you said, like, that's the place of the divine. That's the place of the virgin birth. Let's talk more about that. What do you mean that we are all like in that virgin birth of ourselves? And this, are you a new earther? You're a new earth, right? Right. The new earth, we're birthing the new earth.
We're birthing the new earth. Yeah. when we get to that place, we are the one who's birthing our reality and the collective reality. So you are the Virgin Mother. You're
I feel
birthing
like
the
it
past,
sometimes.
present, and future in it. So that's what sovereignty is ultimately.
Yeah.
It's virginity in a different cloak, so to speak. But sovereignty is not just hanging out there, hey, I'm sovereign. It's actually generative. And while it seems like it's separate, you know, like we have all these conceptions, freedom, sovereignty, well, it seems separate. It's actually tremendously connected to all of the other nodal points of the 0 point in the hologram. So sovereignty, it gets you as one of those 0 point nodes. And then you connect with all of the other 0 point nodes, and you can send things out and birth new amazing things into the whole fractal. You know, I always go back to the Mandelbrot set as the example of what it is to be creative from a virgin birth perspective. It's like this little old equation, you know, that they put on the imaginal plane. Hello, you know, and then it draws out all these amazing, amazing things, including all these new nodal points that look exactly like the womb when you turn it right side up, you know. So it's a generative place to be in that still point. And we don't have to do anything. Like it automatically takes care of itself. That's the void. Well, I'm just channeling right now. I don't even know what I'm saying. So, you know.
It's totally true. I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah. So, you know, we can just tune into this information, just be like,
what do you feel about the children at the moment? I mean, there's lots of children getting the V, getting the Jabberwocky, as my friend Magenta Pixie calls it. So, you know, it's like, what do you feel about the energy of children? Because a lot of kids, you know, there's been a lot of fertility issues coming up more and more. I mean, I think partly because the conditioning gets so thick and so dense, actually there's no room through the vessel of the feminine to birth anything, because she's chock-a-block with all this conditioning, and there's just so many blocks. It's like it just can't come through. So self-purification, cleansing, self-love, deconditioning is super important. But also it's like the forced births, the artificial insemination births. Or what do you think of this, you know, when it comes to the child and the soul coming through, and then, you know, also the new souls coming through, the new kind of DNA, if you like, of the children?
Right. Well, you know, of course, you know, that was all part of the negative plan. That was one of the major things that was going to have to get controlled, attacked, and all that, was the birthing portal and everything about it, from sexuality and male-female positive relating to the birth process and everything. A lot of trauma had to be put into that in order to advance the negative agenda. So, all right, we're all sort of starting to wake up from that. And even those of us who were born in that way or have given birth in that way are coming and clearing and understanding. So there are more and more and more people taking power over their womb. And, you know, the Holy Womb Chakra teachings, again, is one aspect. There are other avenues. And I think that even despite the most traumatic type of situation, these souls are coming in, these star seeds, these fairy hybrids, they're coming in no matter what. And they're going to just do the job that they incarnated to do. So this is happening. You know, we see these children all over. And I think that these negative forces are trying to dumb down those folks and children and so forth and so on. But it's just, it's not going to happen in the long run. It will be cleared. That's what I'm getting at the very moment. We just have to persist, be hopeful, and take the long view picture. It may be within our lifetime, it may be outside of our lifetime, but we have to keep contributing to that stream of light and just trust that the children will break through whatever's going on with them. They'll break the chain. if this, serum put into their body is a chain, they'll break it. The ones who really need to. Some of them won't be able to, they'll have to reincarnate, but some of them are going to bust it. And just like some of the adults are busting it. And so I think that's what we want to continue to stay in the realm of possibility and positivity about.
I agree.
What if these kids are just going to bust through it? It's just like a little chain, that they tink, that's it. And their mission persists. And, what if this serum actually ended up paradoxically activating something that they needed for their even deeper level of initiation? You see, because that's how the light can grab the dark. It can take what seems like this horrible thing and turn it into lemonade, like Jesus did. Like, okay, I'm going to die. Well, let me just release a whole bunch of karma for people through these yogas that I'm doing. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Like the light within us can always turn it around.
I am 100%. Do you know what? I said the same thing to my friend last night. That same friend, Mary, that I was talking about earlier, we were chatting last night. We were saying exactly the same thing. We were like, I really reckon, because a soul doesn't birth by accident, right? You choose when you're born. You choose your parents. The timing is immaculate. I mean, talk about immaculate divine conception.
Yeah.
Everything is immaculate.
Yeah. And you probably know a lot of what you're going to go through. On a global level, even if the exact timeline isn't apparent to you. And you can get in there and go, whoa, I didn't expect this timeline. Oh my God. But it's like, yeah, but you knew when you came in, you were going to have an initiation into the light. And you'd be like, yeah, but I thought it was going to be, well, it could go this way, it could go that way, depending on what's happening on planet Earth right now. You told us you were willing. Oh yeah, right, I did,
And
so
what we conceive here, it never matches what we conceive in real life, right? The concepts here are very slippery and tricky, and
that's right. And it's all conception, that same conception is at so many different chakras, right?
So what if we can conceive with our bodies, our minds, our hearts, even our throats, in talking about this, and conceive with our own divine will, in marriage with our human will, our point to choose right now what we're going to create, each and every single one of us, male, female, in between, both, whatever, just tuning in to the sacral space, tuning in to that holy space of creation that is in every single human being. And what if we could just open that portal up and say, what if everything gets transmuted through me right now in this present moment, and all the things that I'm scared of, that I've conceived up here to be true or scary or dark or whatever, what if those conceptions could just flush right through and out of me and just go back to being compost, and go and compost the Garden of Eden that we're actually growing.
That's right.
Focusing our attention on right now.
Yes, it's so true. And I think it actually can be that simple, which we learn when we do like a what if, like who's going to help me move the Thule cargo box off my, it became very simple. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be doing this every day, every minute of every day. And there's so much to keep us distracted and worried and So we have to come back and back and back to our hearts. And we also need inspirational people like you, and inspirational conversations like this, and people who are, going online and leading that meditation that can get us to that calm, clear, centered place of infinite possibility again and again and again. Right. So we're helping one another, and we're helping the planet by doing voicing these things and going through these fun exercises.
So talking of conceiving, do you believe in twin flames, Marguerite? You talked about summoning in or attracting in your soulmate, and I wanted to circle back to that and go, what does that mean to you? What does that look like? What is a soulmate, and what is or twin flame? and your divine counterpart or whatever?
Right. Well, my divine counterpart is someone who is of the new earth. He is, and yes, you know, he does exist. He is there. He's there in the universe right now. And there may be others. There may be a number of people who, you know, could be that person for me right now. The next one, the next soulmate. But that is somebody who really understands the concepts that we're talking about and that can open his mind to them and be generative in this regard, and is part of this mission on the earth. You know, that to me is a soul mate, because that's the deepest part of my soul. So if I'm looking for a soul mate, you know, it's not just going to be this, you know, this guy who's doing this, that, and the other, playing tennis over there, unless in addition to playing tennis, he knows about the secret world.
Well, it'd have to be your partner. Having
Yes.
said that, though, my divine masculine, my beautiful man, we're exactly the same in terms of kind of intensity, and we're an equal match, but he's the exact opposite of me. So it's really curious, because then you put us together and we mismatch, but we still kind of match. So, and I'm curious, with Jesus and Mary Magdalene, were they soulmates? Were they twin flames? I'm just, you know, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but I'm just curious what you think about that. And especially when it comes to, you know, divine conception and birthing and co-creation, because like we just said, you can divinely conceive a child, or divinely conceive something else between you in that sacred union. So what quality does it take? Do you have to be soulmates? Do you have to be twin flames? I don't know. What do you feel?
Well, I love it when I'm with men and I do have that connection of the magical world. We know about the secret world, and we can be generative and productive on that regard. I really love that most of all. I would be open, you know, I think it's just the feeling tone of, do you feel cherished, loved, understood, held? Does it bring out the best in you, this person, to love them with equal verve and so forth? You know, I can't say that I have all the answers. I do know that the image that I'm creating, you know, as I am opening the doors to this soulmate coming in. Now, about Jesus and Magdalene, you know, this is interesting, because a couple of teachers now have said that that Jesus had more than one consort at the same time and gave birth, or more than one wife, really. Claire Hartsong channeled that, and Sri Kaleshwar basically channeled that. And that's, wow, I'm peak. I don't know, you know, that would be a heck of a lot to deal with. You know, when I look at Jesus and Mary Magdalene, there is that timeline in which he had multiple wives with children and so forth. But then maybe there's another timeline where they were just each other's beloveds, like two swans. You know, I think that would be the more of the one that I'm looking for.
That's interesting. Was Jesus multi-relational?
Right. Was Jesus multi-relational, you know? And that's a hard one. I don't know. I just look in the natural world, we've got swans, we've got cranes, we've got, I don't know if elephants are that way, doves, you know, I'm looking at those animals and I'm like, that's what I want. They're really happy to be peacefully gliding on the lake together. You know, I once saw a pair and I'm like, oh my God, I think those are a male and female. Like, they look so happy, content, you know, it's a serene lake. That's what I want. And, you know, it's interesting, because in creating my love altar, my romantic love altar, it was really challenging getting images. I had to get 2 cranes, you know, I had to like spend $500 at this, you know, this Asian art store to get these 2 brass cranes and, you know, some other imagery. But everything I looked at, it's like, well, no, that's a bad union story, you know, like all looking at all of these famous ones from all these traditions. It's like, no, I don't want to call that onto my altar. Oh my God, no, she had her hands full with that one. And, and I'm like, we really need, so now what I'm looking at are the king and queen of the fairies. Now I need to find out more about them, because I'm like, maybe they are the pure thing that I'm looking for, or the king and queen of the she. You know, because I was like, I think I need to find them and put them on the altar as like the humanoid couple that is sending out the vibration that I'm looking for, or, you know, that I'm embracing. Because I was like, this is terrible that we can't even find like a pure union image to put on a thing, you know, because I look at Shiva and Shakti, I'm like, she looks so little, you know. He's the one who's all, you know, that, and she's this little thing, her back is to you, and I'm like, that's not me, you know. So I think we're working this out. And these are the things that we're working out in order to really understand and co-create or recreate what a true soulmate is, if you want to call it a twin flame. You know, I don't know, because there's been so much, of course, that's where these beings have inserted in, and they create crash and burns and what they call the alien love bite situation, where they infect a twin flame situation and it just goes down. So
yeah, I've heard people talking about that as well, like a bit like that movie with Will Smith. What's it called, where it's like they're angelic beings and they have these superpowers, but they've been attacked. So every time they come together, they get attacked, so they have to spend their time apart. And
right.
I know people have said the same thing as well. If you're in a twin flame union, you basically open yourself up to attack. But
I know, and I think that's changing, and that the channeler, the oracle who's saying that that's changing, to my understanding of what she's saying, is Lisa Renee. She's very deep and powerful. I don't know if you know her material. Well, if you go back and look at her Shifting Timelines audio blogs, she's really talking about the King Arthur, you know, the emerald grid being reestablished, the King Arthur, Guinevere, Hieroskamos being reestablished, et cetera, the way it was supposed to be, not what happened, da, 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 da. So I'm like, okay, we're shifting that. Like I decree that we are shifting this now.
I agree.
So it is.
And actually, just quickly, because I've got some questions that our lovely viewers are asking, so I want to ask you those. But when it comes to, I had the same thing as you when I had my love altar and I'm calling it in, and I ended up using a picture of Arwen out of Lord of the Rings, and what's his name? The guy, what was he called? I can't remember his name. You know, with the one I mean, with the long hair. And he's, you know, he's the ruffian, he's the loner, and then he goes through love with her and her faith and their love. He transforms and becomes the king, and then they get married, and it's happy ever after. And I was like, I'm having them as my icon. So I had a picture of them, and then actually I totally manifested it because my man is totally like that. So
wow.
What you put on your altar, guys. Yeah.
You know, it's important, because we're creating a portal, right, with those altars, with the candles and whatever else we put on there. Did you say there were questions? Or
yes, there is. Okay, so one person's asked about, what do you think about the origin of humanity being all women? Because you're talking about, you know, this lineage of virgin births, and it's like, well, was it women to begin with? And then a second one is, how do you know about Jesus? Lots of wives. How can I follow the timeline that you talk about? So
okay, I'll give the references. Well, first of all, about the human, I think the human originally was a kind of male-female, a kind of androgyne, and some were more valenced toward the male and some were more valenced toward the female. And you know, Plato talks about this, that the human was originally male, female together. It was like the yin yang put together, and then we were torn asunder, and now we've been looking for our other half ever since. So I think what's happening is we're now learning to return to what this is, which is the androgyne within, the male, female within. andros gune, male, female, man, woman. The transgender movement is an impulse in that direction, and yet things are going on to kind of get involved in that too. So we have to be a little careful. But the point is that we are learning how to become that androgyne ourselves as we do the self-love. Because in order to give divine birth, Mother Mary and all these other beings, and I talk about this in my book, they had to love themselves, and it was an erotic love also, in order to spark the egg. Okay, so I think it was, you know, let's look at that shark, what just recently happened, you know, with that shark. And but more than that, we are energetically becoming the anthropos now, the androgyne, the virgin, the sovereign, right? And that is part of the initiation that we're in right now, is to return to that original template, which was a both, you know, a both, but like this intense beauty. And I know some of these people that are kind of like, wow, you know, and their orientation is not gay. Their orientation is what we would call heterosexual, yet they themselves look so androgyny, right? And, but it's not like the men that I know this way are not effeminate. They just have that thing, you know. And then the women I know are like, wow, you know, they look kind of like those she women, warrior women, but they've got that aquiline grace to them, you know. So we're all experimenting now. We're experimenting in returning to our original wholeness, which is on every level. And then about Jesus, if you look at the books, Anna, Grandmother of Jesus by Claire Hartsong, and then Anna, Voice of the Magdalens, I believe in one or both of those, she channels what she received about Jesus having more than one wife at the same time. Now, I'm not saying that I endorse this. You know, this to me is painful. I don't want that timeline. I really want the other timeline for my own healing, whatever it is, because I'm also a little suspicious of that other timeline. It just sounds like there's some interference there. But Sri Kaleshwar talked about it in his private teachings. So if you want more about that, you can contact the Divine Mother Center in Laytonville, California, and see if they have any resources on this. I do know that Alex Utterman, ALX, Universal Church of Baba's Kitchen, who is a teacher in this lineage, talks about this. So you could also contact her and talk to her, Utterman, Utterman. And, you know, she was with Kaleshwar when he was talking about these various things, and they were like, wow, okay, you know. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, that,
Could you quickly just talk about timelines and what you mean, this timeline and that?
Oh, well, like there may have been multiple existences or multiple literal histories or stories or timelines where these things exist on their own, because theoretically all timelines exist, because all time is simultaneous. So they could branch off on any given plane, and theoretically they all do happen. They all do exist. So we can tap into any of those timelines.
It's like one of those storybooks you have as a kid, isn't it? Where you read it and then you make a choice and it says, go to page 36 or go to page 54.
That's right.
You know, and it's like all the stories are in the book, but
that's right.
Route through.
That's right. But which one you went through is according to your karma, your teachings, your needs, you know, etc. And it may be that one or more may have more concretized on this earth, and they're more familiar to us. And I think that's what part of the religious wars are. It's to fighting over which timeline actually is concretized. That's why we get into all these arguments.
maybe we can just constantly choose. And maybe in one timeline, Jesus was non-monogamous, and maybe in another timeline, Jesus was. And therefore, we have particularly men, I'm not saying only men, but seems the conversation I've been having with my girlfriends recently is like, seems to be more men are into non-monogamy. And maybe there's a karmic dance that's playing out through that. There's a timeline completion, there's a growth, there's an understanding, and then of course there's going to be a growth in the direction of monogamy, and and each one is kind of has got dangers and is thwarted, and there's perils and conditioning and hijacking, and so I think whichever path, whichever timeline we take, it all kind of ends up at the same thing, which is to know thyself, love thyself, heal thyself.
That's right. I think you're really speaking
your timeline. Because I love what you said there about the what did you call it?
The anthropos?
When somebody is one being, both sexes.
Oh, androgyne.
Androgyne. So what you said about that, I'd never heard anyone say that before. That actually really resonated with me. And I was, because there's one, in my understanding, one source, oneness. I mean, even if you go to sacred geometry, you can't create any geometry until you put the dot on the page, right?
That's right.
The single dot, the line that connects to another point, and then something can be created, but you need the first dot, and then you need the other, and you've got the Vesica Pisces. So so it makes total sense. Source creates, source is itself, and in order to know itself, it creates the other, splits into masculine and feminine to mirror each other, to challenge each other, to fight each other for a long, long time, and eventually to surrender and fall in love with every single aspect of what is perceived as the other, but really isn't the other, it's the self. Yeah. This is what I experienced with my lover, my twin flame. I use that lightly, that term, my twin flame, because he's the opposite, but the same. And it's like having to see myself in him and him see himself in me, and unconditionally love all that stuff that triggers the shit out of us. And it comes back and you start merging as one being. It's like you're just two bodies, one being.
Yes.
And isn't it amazing? Because you see couples that have been together a long time and they actually just start looking like each other.
They really do. The older couples, it's hilarious.
So it makes sense. It's like, it makes sense logically, but it also makes sense in my heart when you say that. It was like, okay, what about the whole Garden of Eden thing then? And it's like, that makes more sense to me than that story.
Yes. Yes. Wow. That was so beautifully put. I mean, I think these are the kinds of things that we want to be floating out there and sharing and discussing and co-creating. Because, when you speak those words, you co-create it, or you retrieve it from the astral and the Akasha for us to to strengthen into it more. And that's what we're all about, is what are we strengthening into now?
Yeah, you said it, because I'd never heard anybody say that before. And it's like, that actually makes real sense. It just has that alignment. You don't even have to wrap your head around it too much. It just kind of does that. So thank you so much for speaking that. Then, I just danced around the pole that you created there. It was beautiful. And
I think both of us are kind of in an open oracle state right now. So like, I think I'm just, receiving information.
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you. Correctly. And you've mentioned the shark a couple of times. What are you talking about when you're like,
There is a shark in Sardinia that was in captivity. It's a recent news story. And it was a female that was in captivity without any males, and it just gave birth.
No way.
Yeah. So periodically these things happen with typically cold-blooded animals, lizards, sharks, Komodo dragons, snakes, and different things like that. I don't know that it's happened with any mammals, but every once in a while, somebody will be like, did you see this story? So in a pinch, Mother Nature can become that androgyne, in order to, because that shark's intelligence was probably like, you know what, I need to populate this area, or I need to populate this tank, and okay, let's do it.
because sharks have been slaughtered. Anybody who's seen Seaspiracy, oh my God, what they do to sharks, that was devastating watching that. So absolutely, go sharks, go repopulate by miraculous conception, go you. Brilliant. It needs to happen. Beautiful creatures. So I was going to ask you something there, because I know we've been talking for a while, but I'm really enjoying asking you these questions, and I know you're not prepared for them, so I'm just
it's so great. I love this stuff. Are you kidding? You know,
I'm asking you these things because they're just coming to me, and it's like, okay, what about this one?
Well, this is what I had hoped, because when I tuned into you, months ago, I was like, oh, I'd like to talk to that woman. And so here we are, right?
I'm sure we'll do it again, but I've got this, I'm really curious because in terms of this, potentially some people say this and some people would say no, but, potentially if there is a threat to fertility right now, if fertility has been hijacked, and if, the usual male female, the polarized masculine feminine male female relationships are really morphing, changing, whether that's a deliberate distortion, whether it's a natural something evolution. I don't know, I don't really want to get into that, but if you want to. But I'm more interested in if fertility is indeed transforming or changing in some respect. And maybe, I wouldn't blame children for not wanting to come through on the planet, to parents who are not awakened to who they are and coming into their own sovereignty and choosing to create and co-create and procreate consciously. I wouldn't blame them, because you're just going to end up on another a karmic cycle again and again, right? Who wants to do that again? Like, we're evolving, right? So we need a new way, or an evolved way of conceiving and birthing, to get the evolved human beings to continue the cycle. So what if fertility is changing, hijacked or not hijacked, because there is this calling, like that shark, for something else to come, and without sacrifice, without sacrificial blood, without pain of the feminine, without being a sacrificial lamb on the slaughter table in the operating theater to have your baby, birthed for you, because you can't, for whatever reason. What if, where I'm,
Yeah.
I'm rambling a little bit,
No, I get it. Look, whatever happens, you can grab it. Whatever happens, the light can grab it. The light within your soul can grab it and turn it around and turn it into an initiation. Okay. So even if these hijackings are happening, or these interferences are happening of fertility, again, it's getting us away from the addiction to the OBGYN situation and system. It's getting us away from the disempowerment, and it's making us go deeply and say, whoa, I might have gotten hijacked. How do I unhijack myself? And then you go into a really deep initiation into the deepest levels of your womb, your holy womb chakra, your layers, your purification, using mantras or whatever means that you just determine or receive. And you become this superpower with your womb. And you transmit that to your daughter or your son in the next incarnation, who might come through your womb. So anything that happens can unhappen. You can undo it, but in a way that it's an initiation for you. And you go deeper into the depths of your own soul, your own body, mind, spirit abilities, your own movement to become the anthropos, androgyne, virgin, etc. And so I think that people who are worried about what might have happened with their fertility, just get busy, get conscious, start looking at these many teachings, start pulling these teachings from the Akashic records for yourselves, and experiment, explore, have fun with it, change it, reinstitute your womb in a bigger, deeper way than ever before. Get your eggs going again,
Yes.
Put your womb back, make your womb back intact, whatever it was, on the energetic level, on the physical level. Now is your time for your own education as your own womb master. And the same would go for any men who are worried about their you know, their system of how the reproduction is formed in their body. Okay. So I think we can, this is just a time to take it back and go deeper.
Everything you just said, I want it repeated on a loop. That was just brilliant. I'm just going to. Unhijack yourself. I love that. Ask yourself the question. I'm a big fan of speaking out loud, because then you get it's like you put it out there. How can I unhijack myself?
That's right.
Stop, get present, listen, feel, be open, receive. And
That's
go
right.
on that journey.
That's right. You'll get your information. You'll get your information and you'll be like, wow, actually, if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gone this deeply. You see, so these things are these paradoxical initiations, but you make it so. You grab it for the light. You grab it for spirit, right?
Mm.
And I just see that these other attempts are just like, they just kind of fizzle away, you know. Like they're trying to make it look like it's this big thing that they're doing to us, and ba-da-da-da-da, and we're all worried, you know, those of us who are into the whole new earth thing. But it's just like, just go.
There's really no power in it. It comes from an absolute absence, a void of love.
Yeah.
And you cannot create anything in an absence or a void of love.
Right. And that's, you see, that's why they're all abducting all these wombs, because they don't have the void of love, which means they don't have the womb structure, which means they can't reproduce. Yeah. And so that's why they've been using human wombs and things like that, which we can also undo and say no to, etc., and say goodbye, which is part of what's happening right now. We're saying goodbye to all of this activity. And getting conscious to that it's even happening is number one.
Yeah, I got an image then of a row of knitting, you know, and you've been knitting a jumper or something, and then you go, oops, I made them. Oh, I didn't like that bit. And you just get the thread and just unravel row after row. It's really satisfying, isn't it? It's like, oh, and I'm like, you know, just hold on a minute. We're not into this. Let's just pull this thread and unravel the whole thing. Okay.
That's right.
Let's get back to this, get back to neutral, get back to sacred, back to breath. Back to love, and then go again.
And then go again. And then you're like, oh my gosh. And now this time I'm going to put in it this thing and this gold piece and this, you know, you make it really creative instead of the pedestrian blanket you were going to make, right? That's where we're going.
Knit your reality to your heart's content. Go crazy.
Go crazy. Have fun. You know, let the fairies be your guide in that regard. They are the masters of this, the leprechauns. They're the masters of manifestation.
That is actually true. What does Gloria and Sylvia have to say about having fun, please, Marguerite?
You know, you gotta laugh. The whole thing is a joke. Why do you think Buddha was laughing? Because he realized this entire thing is ridiculous. The minute you realize that, you know, you kind of settle down. And go out for a walk, have a nice cup of cacao. Marguerite, right? She likes cacao, whatever. She can have a cacao. You know, smell the flowers around you. Laugh with each other. Just see how absolutely hilarious some of these beings. Look at what they look like. No wonder they're abducting human women. Oh my God, human women are like the gorgeous Marilyn Munsters of the entire universe. Of course, they're here at our doorstep wanting us because, you know, who wants to look like that? All right. So you got to laugh about the whole entire thing. That's all we have to say. Yuma.
Oh, I have another massive question, but I'm like, do we have time for this? Oh my God.
All right. One last question. How about?
Okay, because, and I tend to have been asking this question quite a bit recently, and I'm still curious, and I want to know what you, an amazing, learned professor woman, have to say about this. So I have this feeling that within our DNA, or within my DNA, I don't know about anybody else's, but I'm guessing it's collective, and I believe it's in all species. Okay, I'm just theorizing here. I'm feeling into it, that upon the threat of extinction, upon a threat of extreme, I would say anti-life threat, against the feminine, against Gaia, against the goddess, against the divine, that under such a threat, there's almost like an emergency switch in the DNA that goes activate, bing, bing, bing. And it's like, you know, when the electricity goes out and then the automatic generator flicks on and then all these new lights pop up that are connected to the generator. I almost feel it's a bit like that there's actually this kind of trigger that is happening and is going to happen, and that we're going to be seeing it, of this, the unused or the latent nodes in the DNA that are coming online and are going to come on thick and fast. And we're going to be seeing all kinds of new beings, species, realities, colors, all kinds of things. What do you think on that?
That sounds right on. And it's kind of like exactly what's happening with the Mother Mary shark in Sardinia.
Yeah.
Her DNA came online. All right. She decided, look, I got to give birth. All right. We're under extinction threats, etc. And boop, here you go. So I think, yes, I think that there's a lot going on, and this could be part of the transgendering. I don't know. You know, it's unclear what are the origins of the transgendering, what are the influences on the human form that are changing around what has been known to be male and female, right? Mm-hmm. But I think there's a lot that we're going to discover and also recover, because there are these stories of mythical creatures coming out of women, you know, minotaurs and things, you know. So I mean, if you go the chimerae, the multi hybrided beings, you know, of mythology. Mm-hmm. And so it may be that human women are coming on to be able to do that and trump what's going on in the labs, so to speak, because the labs are doing all these kinds of experimentation all the way down to cloning, which is artificial virgin birth, right? Mm-hmm. And devoid of spirit, you know. And so I think women, yes, we're going to get pretty creative. I'm just remembering now, Nandu Menon in India, he grew up in Kerala, and he has a book, Odysseus' Journey or something like that. Nandu, Nandu Menon, Menon, Odysseus' Journey or something like that. He grew up with his aunties. It's a matriarchal culture. It's still somewhat matriarchal. And he told me privately that, yeah, virgin birth was a real thing, that they were doing that in the forest. He said, but they were also giving birth to other things. And I was like, oh my God, really? And he was like intimating that it was like animals and things like that. Okay, in India. So at the deepest esoteric levels of matriarchy, which is basically a culture in which women are at the center and men are protecting, just to clarify that, this is what can happen. Okay. So I think you're tuning right into that. And I had really forgotten about that until this moment. It was years ago when I still lived in California. Back in the early 2000s, that he gave a workshop, and he spoke to me privately about that. And I was just like, I don't know what to do with that. So I'm just going to put it on a shelf until now. Apparently this is the moment.
Okay. I'm going to go and look that up.
Yeah.
So Marguerite, I mean, my goodness, thank you for being so gracious and going with, you know, on this whole journey with me. And
I love this type of stuff because it's generative, Tara. You know, it's not just me like repeating things that I've said, or it's we're kind of co-creating, we're co-discovering, and we're generating, you know, stuff out into the universe for people. So, and they're getting generated, they're generating just by listening. So I love this. This is how we do it in New Earth, right?
Totally. And also the whole quantum coding that's been coming through thick and fast. I mean, it really started last year around May time, June. I mean, my goodness, just literally seeing quantum particles, quantum energy manifesting and rising with, you know, Gaia's energy. And then seeing like the last few days, these quantum codes coming in. And it's like, just being here, speaking into it, it's like we're co-creating with source. We're going, what do you want? This is what we want. Why do we want it? Because it's innate. Something inside of us that we didn't do. It's like a seed that says, it's my time to grow now. I want this reality. I want to absolutely hang out with the angels and the fairies and talk to the animals, and animals don't get killed anymore, and people don't sacrifice themselves or each other anymore. And we're all coexisting and co-creating and, you know, going into new but safe, loving realms, not anti-life, devoid of love creation.
That's right.
Going into
we don't need violence as birth control. We don't need murder and sacrifice as a method of birth control. We are in alignment with flow. We know when to conceive, when not to conceive.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with pharmaceuticals that we put inside of our vaginas and etc.
Yeah. By divine choice and decree and purification.
Yeah. And that type of thing is all over indigenous peoples, you know, like in Melanesia, it was, there are researchers that they knew that there were different ways that people got pregnant, and that it kind of in a way had nothing to do with sex. There was this one particular culture in Melanesia, and it was like, oh my God. And, you know, and scientists looking at that like, oh, look at those ignorant people. They didn't know that, you know, because of intercourse, that's how, and they're just like, no, you could have intercourse and no pregnancy. And therefore you could have no intercourse and pregnancy. You know what I mean? So that's where we start getting into the far reaches of what is innate in us, as we're saying, and just it's now being unveiled again.
Because we know so much sacred knowledge has been hidden, right?
That's right. For good reason. But now we're ready to have it again. There are enough protectors of this knowledge to have it go forth in a responsible way.
Exactly. And you're very much a gatekeeper of that knowledge. You're a protectress of that knowledge. You have the knowledge, you have your mystery school. And of course, you receive, you know, people who are listening to this right now and going, I want to dive into this. I want to learn more. You're the woman to go to, right?
All righty. Well, you know, and I do have these classes. I have the Holy Womb Chakra teachings that I'm certified to teach because I did learn it from that lineage. I have the Mother Mary mystery teachings, which gives quite a bit of information about Mother Mary as a mentor on every level. You know, and other things, my book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. And I will be doing a monthly subscription with what I'm calling the Mother Mary Love and Empowerment Circle. That will be starting September 2021.
I'll be on it.
All right, good. It's not very expensive. It'll be $27 per month. And then I go through a guided meditation with Mother Mary in our field. I give an oracle, and then I do what I call cosmic Q&A with people. They bring their questions and I answer. We go about an hour and a half or something like that. So yeah, that's been a wonderful thing that I did a while back, and now I'm resurrecting it. So it'll probably be the third Thursday every month. And so you can go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com. The 7 is written out, SEVEN. Get on our email list. You'll be notified of that, and you can see what else is new. You know, there's many different free things and all of that. Just poke around the website.
And you have a cool YouTube channel as well. You do some really cool videos and interviews.
Yes, yes. I've done a lot of interviews on my book, and really each one is unique. There's something that I didn't say in any of the others in all of them. So, and again, that's for that book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, which came out in April. And the subtitle is Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Births. So that's available wherever books are sold online and in stores. And there's also an Audible version.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you, my gorgeous one. And is there anything else that hasn't been shared that you really want to share before we go?
Oh my goodness. I think we've covered it. Just, you know, amazing gratitude to you for all that you're doing, and for having heard the call so that we could connect. And, birth this thing together. It's really amazing.
Well, I feel like we're definitely going to be seeing each other again and connecting again. I feel like there's longevity in this, and I'm definitely going to have you back on the show at some point as well. And I've really enjoyed. I really was looking forward to, having this time with you.
Yeah, me too. Me
I'm
too.
like, okay, this is exciting.
All right, and I'll just reiterate, if people do know of someone who might be a soulmate partner for me, or you are that person, contact us at the Seven Sisters Mystery School site. I'll just put it out there. I thought about putting it out on my newsletter, but I was advised against it. But that doesn't stop me from doing it on, these kinds of wide ranging. I know you have, this goes out to a lot of pretty groovy people. So
doesn't, and you know what, maybe you need to open the Seven Brothers Mystery School.
Oh, yes. Good idea.
Yeah,
I love that.
You'll get the right guys.
I'll start thinking about that now.
Or go and find a guy that's running a mystery school and say, hey.
I think so. That's more it. That's their part, right? I don't want to take that away from them. So yeah.
I want to just praise the divine masculines out there right now who are absolutely on it. Yeah. I know, actually, I saw after we'd done Day of the Divine Feminine, I saw that there was I didn't actually watch it, but there was a divine masculine similar thing that had gone out with a group of guys, and there was this big long video thing, and I was like, cool.
Yeah, I know there are some really, really beautiful conscious men who are doing their work, doing the work, really working for the planet. It's beautiful.
It is, right? So everybody stop hating on each other and yourself and just get with the program and love yourself unconditionally. And then you can just love everybody. And then we create that paradigm and forget the other one. Like, it's done. It's over. It's got no life left in it. It's completely dead. It's like flogging itself to death. Leave it alone. It's not important. It doesn't have any power over us at all, because we can just say, well, what if? And
that's right. What if?
Yay.
Oh, I love it.
You're a goddess. I love you. I'm going to see you again. Thank you for being here with me this evening. And everybody who's watching this, please share this video. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. I really love it because it helps attract more viewers, and then more people can meet these wonderful women like Marguerite. And all love and power to you, my beautiful family. I love you. Mwah.
Blessed be.